I think the Q3 survey period came against that backdrop where we did see an escalation in interest rate expectations, so that probably fed into a lot of that negativity with regards to the sentiment that the market is turning down. It'd be interesting to see the Q4 results. I do suspect, given that interest rate expectations have moderated, it should turn a little bit less pessimistic, should we say, and activity. I think investment volumes should pick up slightly through the course of the next 6 months.
تشير بيانات ريكس إلى استمرار الضغط على الشركات من الناحية التمويلية، فإلى أي مدى من الممكن أن يؤثر ذلك على سوق العقارات التجارية في المستقبل؟
Yeah, I think a lot of that kind of pressure on cash flow would be linked to the borrowing costs, but also inflation kind of eating into its profit margin. So if we see at least part of that equation subside, so if inflation does continue to kind of soften, that could help support cash flow from companies, and if borrowing costs aren't quite as elevated as what we've seen, that also could relieve some pressure, but I think it's still going to be quite a difficult external environment for the next 12 months.
وماذا عن سوق العقارات التجارية ولكن في المناطق الفاخرة بشكل خاص وفي لندن، وأين هي برأيك المناطق التي قد يكون أدائها أفضل من المناطق الجغرافية الأخرى؟
Yeah, so where we see the biggest distinction between prime and secondary is actually in the office sector. So the overall office sector is still struggling. We've seen vacancies continue to rise right throughout this year. But if you look at the prime end of this, which is benefiting from a bit of, it's labelled flight to quality. So occupiers want higher spec offices with more amenities to try and entice staff to come in. So those are actually benefiting from this allocation while the rest of the reallocation, while the rest of the market really struggles. So for prime office rents, say maybe those across the London West End, I think the outlook is slightly positive for next year, but the overall office market I think is really going to struggle to see much in the way of an uplift in rents over the course of 2024.
إذا نظرنا إلى سوق العقارات التجارية في بريطانيا سواء تجزئة، مكاتب أو منشآت صناعية، كيف تقيم أداء هذه الوحدات المختلفة داخل سوق العقارات التجارية؟
Yeah, most certainly the strongest outlook is still with the industrial sector. It's really been supported by the ongoing shift towards online shopping now. Maybe it was accelerated by the pandemic and maybe not growing quite so fast right now, but I think longer term that's definitely benefiting from those type of trends. Retail it's had a really difficult stretch, not just since the pandemic, but even in the years before that. For next year, I think rental growth prospects could be slightly supported by a very slightly stronger outlook for consumer spending towards the back end of next year. So I think overall retail rents should rise in 2024, but the office sector I would say now is very clearly lagging overall, with the exception of some prime offices.
برأيك في ظل ضعف سوق العقارات التجارية في بريطانيا، هل يمثل ذلك فرصة شراء لبعض المستثمرين؟
Yes, so I mean, I think the market needed to adjust in the face of higher bond yields. I mean, that's just going to trigger a price adjustment, and so we have seen quite a significant decline in capital value. So the fall in investment volumes probably is linked to that. There's a lot of kind of suspicion that values may not have kind of found a floor yet, but I think at the point we're at now, the outlook for capital values maybe is slightly positive. So right at this point in time could potentially, with still risks attached, present a decent buying opportunity or a decent price point to enter, seeing as we have seen quite a strong adjustment.
وماذا عن العقارات المستدامة بشكل خاص ومثلا المكاتب المستدامة؟ إلى أي مدى ترى قوة الطلب على هكذا عقارات السنة القادمة؟
Yeah, so the whole sustainability angle is a large driver, I say, as well, of that shift in demand away from older secondary office stock towards the prime end. So that's definitely contributing there. A lot of data does show that the investors and occupiers, so both on the rental and capital value side, are willing to pay a premium for that. A large part of that could be potential regulations coming into force in the future requiring minimum energy efficiency standards of commercial premises, and so that kind of premium there makes sense. There's really shifting demand towards that prime end, with newer buildings tending to be more energy efficient.